All right, ladies and gentlemen, this kind of looks a little bit different, but I got to get into this, and I got to get into the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight. I'm going to call it that for now, that we saw over this past weekend. And what better person to talk about boxing than the boxing aficionado himself, the pugilist from across the pond, if you will. I'm talking about our resident hero in the world of combat sports, Mr. Steve Swift. Steve, how you doing today, brother?
I'm okay. You just caught me mourning the end of Jake Paul's influencer career. But apart from that, um, I'm very well, thank you. Can't believe that I took the time to watch that fight in inverted commas. I'm doing them in the air now. There we go.
Right. Well, here's the thing. So we're going to get into this right away, and we're not even going to talk about because there's so much to talk about with the undercard and all of that. But I want to focus on what it was that was selling this fight. Now, if you're asking me straight up, like, how is the production? How did it look? Everything like that. From the people sitting inside of the arena, fantastic.
Mhm.
When you could actually watch it on Netflix, even, I mean, you can start with that. Did you have any problems over there in England watching it on your Netflix?
No, not at all. I mean, and extraordinary that I was able to watch it on Netflix. I mean, that I have to say that it's if we're talking about getting it to as many people as possible, then that's great. And I have Netflix, and it's part of my phone contract, so I didn't feel, oh, I'm paying extra cash to see this load of shite. But I was pleased that a lot of people saw it, and I was able to see it. Yeah, no problems at all. So did you have problems?
We did actually where
Oh,
I am. We had problems with Netflix. So here's what I ended up having to do was because I have Netflix on my phone as well, like
yeah,
everybody else does, it seems like. And I
yeah.
had to stream it from my phone and then cast it onto the TV that we were watching it from because we had to get together. And it turned into that, like everybody else said, the 99% and then the 25% and all the buffering. And I guess if you're Netflix, that's a good problem to have. I mean,
Yeah.
do you want to get into the fight game if you don't have these kinds of problems? It showed that there's definitely room for growth and that Netflix in itself, if they want to venture into this with the world of pro sports, especially with boxing. But the bigger problem is, Steve, it isn't necessarily the boxing that sold this thing. It was Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Now let's get into this. What did you think? Did you actually think this was going to happen in the first place?
Um, yes. I mean, I've been saying that this is the gift that keeps on giving. If you're interested in comedy, because it's around. I mean, my first feeling is, well, okay, you got a license. Got a license to fight. Tyson got a license to fight, and I think I've said this many times. And then he was supposed to. We had the first date, and then he was taken off the plane. And oh, his ulcer's playing up. Just a minute, hang on. He's got an ulcer, and he's going it right. Okay, no hitting to the body then because I've got an ulcer. Okay. It's that kind of it's that feeling like I've got a bad nose, so no hitting to the face because my nose has been compromised. So
Right.
I mean, really, I'm just thinking, should that quite apart from he's my age, or almost my age. I wouldn't get in the boxing ring. I have in the past. I wouldn't do that now. But it, and we'll come to this. But we saw the ravages of age here, even though he looked fantastic. People say it's just a number. It is, and that matters in boxing. So I didn't think. I thought it would take place because there's too much money at stake. But this has not made it's not a problem for Tyson as much because generally he was just doing his side hustles, his gummies, and all that kind of stuff, and we knew he was he was happy to fight. And generally, because he's 58, people like me were giving him a pass and saying, "Well, you're bound to have some issues, aren't you?" Really, it wasn't good for Jake Paul, who had to hustle to to make another fight, and that didn't work that well. And then people were saying, I'll step up to fight you, I'll step up. And he didn't have control of it. And that's the thing. It's supposed to be his gig, and it became everybody else's gig. And now afterwards, they're controlling the narrative here. More of this in a minute, obviously, but they're controlling the narrative. It's no longer his gig.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of said it right out the get-go when I first found out about this. And I said, well, where are they going to be doing this? Because this sounds absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then you found out they were doing this in Texas. And this is the same commission, maybe not the same people, but the same commission and structure that allowed Antonio Margarito to be the person that he was in Texas, right? Texas is known for not having the most upstanding commission to begin with. I think the only way you're going to get any lower standards is if you were to do this fight on the reservations like they used to do with some of the MMA fights in that. You know what I mean? So as soon as you found out it was in Texas, you were like, okay, let's see where they actually go with this. And then you found out they're going to try to fill 100,000 seat arena in AT&T Stadium. Now, I've been inside of that stadium. I am if you can't tell from looking behind me there, I am a huge Eagles fan, a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I was there when the Eagles beat Dallas in overtime with all of my Dallas friends, and they, did not like the ribbing that I gave them that day. But
funnily enough,
F them. So I seen firsthand how big this arena is. Then you have on top of that the clear fiasco that is boxing. They did all of that stuff fantastically, no problem.
Yeah.
But the second you saw the bell ring and that first punch was thrown, I went, "Oh my God, this is sad. This is sad. I'm still watching this." But the reason that I thought it was sad, and it wasn't so much sad for Mike Tyson, because I had this feeling going into it. Again, a 58-year-old man, you don't lose power. What you lose is speed out the gate, especially in the world of boxing. And punching. There's no doubt about that. But I think that as soon as you saw him out there, you were like, well, I'm glad he's getting paid. Now, the person I felt bad for the most was Jake Paul, because Jake Paul has to continue after this. And you talk about the narrative, and I want to get into this. So what is the narrative going forward then with Jake Paul?
This is really interesting. And, I bang on about the business of boxing, and there's no boxing of boxing in this. It's all the business of boxing. You're quite right. We can talk about the match in the match in a minute, but you're quite right. I thought, just quickly, I thought Mike Tyson's mindset was, got to knock him out, got to knock him out, got to knock him out, because I've only got a round or two, because your engine seizes up, and let's not forget, the baddest man on the planet, look at his record, his last two fights, if we cast our minds back, I remember watching this on a terrestrial TV show, when he fought Mr. Williams and was knocked, and I couldn't believe it. So, his fall was fairly precipitous and quick. And the narrative for Jake Paul is, well, it starts even before this fight, because does he want to be a boxer or doesn't he? I feel as a boxing fan that he's taking the piss out of me, because, and I'm a little bit cheesed off by it, because he either wants to be a boxer or he doesn't. So when he fought Tommy Fury and he lost, he said, "This has made me," and I'm paraphrasing, but "this has made me even stronger, and I really want to be a boxer now." And I have no doubt that he loves the boxing game and loves the boxing training and all of that. But you either say, "I'm going to build my record," which will be fairly padded, because everybody who's got a chance, a prospect, has a padded record to begin with. Generally, we can talk about journeyman and having a walkabout if you like, and predetermination if you want to talk about that. That's probably for another podcast. But a lot of people have, fights against people that you wouldn't really know, and he's done a couple of those. But really, if he does that, he's gonna need lots of those, and people won't sign up for that in such great numbers. So it's a balancing act. He either wants, okay, I'm gonna get my boxing career going, and it may take an hour, it may take a year, it may take 5 years, it may, and then we'll fight for a title. Or he wants to say, I'm losing fans, and I need to fight an MMAer and Mike Tyson. So one or the other, but he's not sure what he wants at the moment, and now he's lost that control. So there are people, there are memes. This is who he's fighting next. Picture of Clint Eastwood. He's called out Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor has said, "Nah, sorry, mate. No, not that." He's lost control. It's as if he's calling people out rather than them saying, "Well, I've been called out by Jake Paul. Fantastic." People are saying, "Not too bothered about that." That says a lot when you're an influencer.
100% does. I think the problem that he has now is that people have called his bluff.
Ooh.
When he said, I want to fight boxers. I want to be a world champion. Okay, now you've been thrown out there on the stage, and anybody who knows anything about watching boxing, you can tell he loves to train. You can tell he's been taught a couple of tricks, a couple of 1-2s. He doesn't know how to fight off of his back foot at all. He lunges into all of his jabs and throws from his shoulder as opposed to throwing from his hip. He's not technically there to where he should be, and granted, he is either is a guy like Tommy Fury. So I understand you either have two things in the world of combat sports. You either have legacy, which involves your record.
Yeah.
Or you have a bank account. And in my opinion, the bank account actually means more, because I can't go to the bank and try to pay my mortgage on legacy. Does it matter? Obviously not, because look, Mike Tyson doesn't give a crap about whether or not it says 50-7 or 50-6 on his record. He walked away with $20 million. Anybody with half a brain would do the same exact thing. But for a guy like Jake Paul, who's trying to himself put over this narrative that he's going to be a world champion, he's not there. And I've said this before. We have a guy here in Canada who's about to fight for the WBA championship in Ryan Rozicki, who would be a perfect matchup for a Jake Paul and get him into that world of boxing. Because listen, Tommy Fury, okay, he says he's a boxer, but listen, he came from the world of being a, one of these reality TV show, good looking kid, has the last name. We haven't seen Tommy Fury fight since then, have we?
No, and it's two different worlds. You're either in Love Island, or you want to be a boxer. The two cannot coexist. And you're quite right that it's about your manager and about your coach and about, well, more like your manager to say, well, who can we fight next? Who can we let's try and leapfrog some of the early fights. And maybe give Ryan a call and say, yeah, actually, can we try this? And he might be amenable to that, but he's not there yet.
No,
I mean, you can't do that with him yet. So he needs some I don't know whether he has the aptitude. That's the issue, isn't it? I don't know, because we haven't seen him fight enough. Right. So, Tommy Fury's not a great fighter, but he didn't humble him that night, but he certainly gave him some things to think about. And I just thought, maybe you're concerned about the age of Mike Tyson, but when Tyson came out for the third round and he thought, can't move feet, feet won't move, must stand here. I just thought, just knock him out, just hit him, at least give us something.
Yeah.
At least rattle him a little. And there was nothing. Now, I don't know if that's being gun shy. I suspect it isn't. I suspect that he can't put a plan into action. There must have been a plan, but I suspect he can't formulate that plan. And it's difficult in a boxing ring. It's difficult, but you need the aptitude to be able to do that. Now, he had enough opportunity in those, 3, 4, 5, and 6 rounds. 7 and 8, Tyson, I think, thought, nearly over, can move, will move now. But I think in those rounds, he was just stuck to the floor. I'm right in front of you. I have a defense. Find a way to get round it. And that didn't happen.
Do you think maybe it got to Jake Paul's head because there was always this scenario set up that, okay, you go out there and you beat Mike Tyson, you beat a 58-year-old man. You go out there, you lose to Mike Tyson, you lost to a 58-year-old man. There was always that narrative. And also it's Mike Tyson. Do you think maybe that got into his head a little bit and he's like, you know what? Maybe I can't go on the gas. And maybe at the beginning he was like, all right, we're in a fight, but found out very quickly that he was in there with a 58-year-old man and kind of held up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a high stakes game, isn't it? Because you need somebody to fight that we're not going to say who. You got somebody from the car park who runs the local casino, that. So you need somebody that's high stakes. And you're quite right. He's on a hiding to nothing, because people like me who bang on about it would say, yeah, well, if he come out and knock Tyson out with an incredible barrage of blows, or a huge one punch knockout, I'd be thinking, worried about Mike Tyson. And but that shows me something. But he's on a hiding to nothing, because you're quite right. He can't, it's all about money, but winning or losing for his career going forward is the thing. I mean, I don't know how he could have won that, but as I say, keeping control of that narrative is the most important thing for him. And it's almost as if he's flirted with the mainstream boxing fans, and now they're saying, look at these clips of you dancing around to music. It's that sort of thing. So now he's got that to contend with, and he's not been given a free pass before. People who know him have said, well, I like what he does, but now you're moving into another world where people are saying there's lots of us here who think you look a bit silly. So this could affect him badly.
Yeah, I think it could. And I think that moving forward, in my opinion, I want to ask yours this, moving forward before we wrap up, where does Jake Paul go from here? Because I think that if he wants to get into the world of boxing, the only boxers he's going to be able to box against are very high profile, because his profile he's put it up to a status where if you put him in there against a guy who's got the same kind of record as him that nobody knows, nobody's going to tune in. Everybody just got watching him and Mike Tyson. Everybody's now thinking he's going to fight Canelo, but that's clearly not going to happen, because clearly, I mean, you're talking about a 30-40 difference in 30-pound weight difference to begin with, and you're still going to get clowned. So let me ask you this. What does Jake Paul do next? Does he continue to try to fight MMA guys or older washed up guys, or does he have a rematch maybe with Tommy Fury?
Well, that's an interesting, that the Tommy Fury comment is interesting, because it has some cachet, doesn't it? He would only be able to do that if Tommy could bring Tyson along, on this. There's no point. There's no point in doing it if Tyson's not going to be there. No point. But if he could, that would be different. Now, there's a rumor. I read something on the internet, so it must be true, that he had said to Conor McGregor, I'll fight you, but in an MMA fight, Conor. Just ridiculous. I'll tell you something, though, Chris. I'll tell you something. If he's looking at catch weight and he's not bothered about fighting a heavyweight, Derek Chisora's always available. So,
Well, I've said it as well. If we're going to talk about a guy who has clearly got a name cachet, who's a heavyweight, probably closer to his own weight, doesn't necessarily have all the greatest boxing skills, fuck it. Let's give him Deontay Wilder.
Well, I mean, this is interesting, because that would be extraordinary. That's a massive move for Jake Paul, isn't it? Mm-hmm. For Deontay Wilder, I mean, I might have missed something, but I think he's still considering whether he is still legitimate as far as looking at titles goes. And, it's a fractured picture, isn't it? So someone might say, go on, then I'll give you a chance. But the guilt's off the gingerbread, isn't it, with that particular fighter? So he might take, I mean, that's a massive move for Jake Paul, but I mean, he'd knock him into the middle of next week,
and
because
I'm okay with all of it.
I'm okay with that. I mean, that sort of look. I'm not giving you any kind of defence. You know, he'd need to be like this. So there's that. He'd need to be fighting from a different room.
Yeah.
To get that one sorted. But interesting. I think that, although I said it as a joke, Chisora's a great fit for him. He's got 2 more fights. He says he brings something that, you know, the business of boxing. He brings something. He's a war merchant. His ex-handle is Derek War Chisora. He's got to watch out for the punches, but actually he could clinch all night. Jake Paul, and we know he's good at that after seeing those first 2 rounds, don't we? So right. that might be something he could do. I should be his manager. Can you get me in there? Because that is the match that he should make next.
Well, there you go. There you go. Steve, it's always a pleasure to sit down and talk some boxing with you. We're going to do this more often because I just love to be able to do it, and hopefully people enjoy to listen to it. So yeah. Where can everybody find all of your stuff?
You can find me on YouTube. I'm Steve Swift's Rambling Reviews. So you can find me on YouTube. I think I'm World Weary Guy 1 on YouTube. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me at Steve Swift 088, I think, on that. You can find me all over the place. You can find me on X. I'll be World Weary Guy on X. You can find me on that, or Twitter, if you want to be old school about it. So yeah, I podcast every day because I'm addicted to it, and there are worse addictions. Not many, but there are worse. So yes, you can find me at all of those places.
Perfect. And of course, you know, right here on the Law Live Audio Wrestling, where we love to ask the question that always, with this kind of a boxing match, ladies and gentlemen, what's a work?